let's give it a chance. The people that are going to run for president, and we don't know who they're going to be, and there's not a perfect candidate. We're going to disagree with, there won't be one that even someone like Sarah Palin that I think the sun rises and sets on, she's probably got something that I don't agree with. I haven't found it yet, but it's probably there somewhere. And so let's give it a go. The Democrats stick together and that's why they win. And we let one little thing, and half of the stuff we're not even accurate on when we call people rhinos. They may have a point that they believe in that you don't believe in, but if you take a piece of paper and you put the things that are conservative on one side and things that are liberal on the left side, I'll guarantee you 85% anyway of the things that they believe in would be a conservative belief. So what do we do about it? We go and we learn as much as we possibly can from people at the Republican headquarters. And yeah, I'm going to say Republican because this is a two-party system. There may be an independent here and there that is worthy of our vote. I'm not ruling them out. But overall, we have just a two-party system. And, I don't see at this stage, now maybe it'll change, I don't see at this stage anything happening that will change and we can have a third party come in with the strength required and the money required. So we're going to have to change the Republican Party if we don't like it. But in closing, I ask you to go to the Republican headquarters of your Republican representative that you feel it's good. Volunteer, even if you only put in a half an hour a week or 15 minutes a week, or get some signs and put out in your yard. And let's start at grassroots level from dog catcher to the school system and to the state and then to national. But let's get over talking about the president. We'll hear enough about that and can make our decision on that in the future. I guess you can tell by my tone of my voice that this is really important to me. And I think it's important to our country that we stop talking about stuff and start doing things. And the only way to do it is to do it in your neighborhood. And that's where elections are won or lost. And that's my headline of the day, or whatever our subject is.
Well, yeah, we're just talking about, we hear what people say. And Mary, what are you hearing?
I always hear, like every week, it's about where our federal money is going. And so this week, I was watching as people were talking about Michelle Obama's Kyoto visit. At the rental price for that car just in Kyoto, Japan, was $80,000 for rental cars.
What? I hadn't heard that.
Yep, and it's according to a government contract. That's just for the rental cars. And then she'll be flying on to Nigeria, Afghanistan, South Sudan, Jordan, and Guatemala. Now that's going to cost the educational programs they're going to help them have $231.6 million. Now, if you also go back and look at the fact that every hour above Air Force One and the others is right at $180,000 per hour. So we're talking about money spent traveling that's supposedly under the guise of helping other nations, the Let Girls Learn initiative. And there's a second thing that really bothered me about this, and that's when she went there, that she went to this shrine, which is dedicated to a god of rice. And then they go inside this, and they pay for this. They go into a pitch black basement that symbolizes the womb of Buddha's mother. And people wonder why they question whether this is a Christian nation anymore or not.
Wow.
Wow.
But I cannot understand how we could sign these contracts for that kind of. How many rental cars would that take to drive? Japan's not that big, Okinawa and things like that. How many cars would you rent to get $78,741?
Yeah, she could have took a rickshaw. What the heck?
Who could have
What I
pulled
would
it?
have done there.
Who could have pulled it?
But that reminds me, Mary, of something that's happened several years ago, where Obama decided to take his wife on a date,
Oh, yes.
and he took her to New York, and he had to take Air Force One, and of course Air Force Two has to go anywhere Air Force One goes, or another plane, just in case that one breaks down, and then they have all the jets. It cost over $1 million for that date to take her out to dinner. And you can't tell me they haven't got good restaurants in Washington, D.C.?
Well, he flies his barber in, you know that, every month from Chicago. He puts him on the Air Force. I don't know whether it's 1, 2, or 27, but he flies his barber in every month to cut his hair.
Well, he's lately forgotten to bring the dye.
But just for instance, again, just in 2010, Obama flew Air Force One 172 times in 1 year. So that is where a lot of money. We hear about the golfing. We hear about him paying his daughters $40,000 each to be ambassadors to some country. But these expenses are huge, and you don't usually hear about them. They're kind of undercover.
I read an article this morning, and it was saying that on vacations alone, the Obamas have ran up like a $44 million tab on vacations alone. It's mind-boggling. Think of all the good that money could have done somewhere else.
Well, at least if Mo is on a trip right now, I hope she took her wigs with her.
That's something you do.
I think they took a picture of her without her wig on. That's pitiful. Have you ever seen a first lady look so pitiful?
What was that when she came to Arizona to Grand Canyon and she had that hair pulled back in that teeny tiny little bun, had those raggedy tail shorts on, and
Was that
like a bum?
is that the one with the blue shoes?
Oh yeah, she looked horrible getting off that plane. She looked like she had just come out of the ghetto.
I don't like talking about people's looks very much, but when you're the president's wife, you don't try to look like your teenage daughters.
No.
And
That's why.
she's emulating. Look at Laura Bush, class. Barbara Bush, class. Did you
With a capital C.
Yeah, did you ever see them in shorts and raggedy and tops that are too small?
No.
I mean, they represent the United States, or that's what the President and First Lady used to do. I just pray right now that people look at them and say, well, they don't really represent the whole United States.
They represent a small few, actually. A very small few.
Very small.
Okay, Mona, what's the topic that you've heard people talking about?
Well, I've got a couple of things. I wanted to talk about the election thing that Teresa and Roland brought up. We have a group that was created on our network that's called Rat Network 2016 Here We Come. And what we're hoping to do with that group is to post information that people can learn about candidates, not gripe about candidates, but actually their voting and their history and their education, all that stuff, the qualifications. We have a disclaimer on that group that allows us to also make a personal post as if we find some information out, rather than having it look like the network has done it. But we're trying to build up to where people will stop looking at these people like Roland and Teresa are talking about as individuals, but as a part of process of choosing the best candidate. And we don't know that unless we have information. And that's what that group is all about. The other thing that Roland brought up about we need to start voting and running a grassroots movement in the states from dog catcher up. People do not understand as yet because it has not hit them, but there is a covert movement for mandatory voting in the states that Obama is going to start pushing, and it is imperative that we get more conservatives elected to local and state offices, because the vote within the states are going to be considerable when it comes up to changing the term limits for the president and changing the amendment, because they need 2/3 of the votes of the states to turn it over. Well, if he's got the states loaded with his little creepy old voters, then we're sunk. He'll be in there forever. We'll have our first emperor who will just keep on beating us to death. You know, so those things are real important that people know, and they need to stop focusing on things. The View the other day had about Ted Cruz that we absolutely could not have a president who did not believe in climate control. Now, we just cannot have that. This is the kind of idiotic thing that the liberal left tries to push down our throats. And that's the kind of information that we need to clarify. And that was the reason for this group. I'm trying to breathe through. The other thing that I want the people, and this is a message to our proposed candidates, please consider before you announce what you may be giving up in place of what might happen. Like Patrick Murphy in Florida, if Marco Rubio runs, Patrick Murphy, who is the Democratic congressman from the area that Marco Rubio, a senator, is going to run for Senate, and Patrick Murphy in Florida is not that unpopular. If Marco Rubio gives up his seat in the Senate in order to run for president, we've lost a seat. The Democrats have gained a seat. I've got to take a break. I got a cough.
She's got a cough. Well, I want to go back for just a second to what we were talking about. People need to vote and that kind of thing. I want to bring up the fact that Christians have not voted. A lot of times Christians sit home because they're saying that I can't vote for that candidate because X, Y, and Z reasons. Well, if you don't vote and you call yourself a Christian, you have just given a vote to someone else. And those someone else, they always say, well, vote the lesser of two evils. Unfortunately, that's the case because, as Roland said, nobody's a perfect candidate. But here's the thing. If you do not vote and you call yourself a Christian, you are not occupying till he comes. We are told to occupy. You cannot occupy if you are quiet, you sit down, you don't stand up, and you don't speak up. You cannot call yourself a Christian. So don't say, oh, I'm a Christian and I'm so pious and I'm so perfect I couldn't possibly vote for X, Y, and Z. Well, I'm talking to you because you have got to get rid of that ideology. We can support one candidate that's our candidate. We can support them if you will call his office and remind him of your thoughts. You can write him letters. Stop with the emails already. They don't read those. A letter and a phone call mean more than anything. Write a letter and send it to them. You have got to vote. No matter what people say, you have got to vote and support the candidate that is least evil. Let's put it that way. Then the other point I want to make is you need to support the person and not the party. Once the person is up there at the top of the party, that's different. I'm talking about supporting the Republican Party right now. They are demanding money from you left and right. They want your money. They want your support. They want. I'm not giving them a dime until they knock it off with the elitist Republican stuff. I am not giving them a dime. I'm not giving them a nickel or a penny. I am not supporting them at all. And here's why. They are not listening to you and me. They are not. And if they don't listen to us, then they don't get our money. How about that? I told the Tea Party that called me the other day, until you start actually doing something, you can stop calling me. I have donated enough. You are not doing anything.